I remember the night I downloaded Badoo vividly. The rain was pounding against my window, and the cold, empty silence of my apartment felt suffocating. I wasn't looking for anything serious, just a distraction. Life had felt stagnant since my last breakup, and my friends had been relentless in convincing me to try online dating. What's the harm? I thought. Just a little harmless fun, right? It didn't take long to stumble across his profile. Daniel. He was everything you'd want to see in a match. Tall, good-looking, with a smile that seemed both disarming and confident. His bio was short but magnetic, filled with just enough charm to make him seem effortlessly intriguing. As I swiped right, I couldn't have imagined the nightmare that was about to unfold. Within minutes, we matched and his first message popped up. It wasn't one of those lazy openers you usually get. He was warm, thoughtful, and somehow attentive. It felt like talking to someone who genuinely got me. We chatted for hours that night, laughing about small things, swapping stories about our favorite books and movies, and dreaming out loud about the future. There was something comforting about him, something magnetic. By the time the conversation ended, we'd exchanged numbers, and I went to bed with a smile on my face. But that's when things began to feel off. The text started early the next morning, sweet, harmless even. A simple, good morning, hope you have a great day. It was flattering at first, almost endearing, but the messages didn't stop. Morning turned to afternoon and then evening. My phone buzzed relentlessly with questions. What are you up to? Who are you with? At first I laughed it off. He's just excited, I told myself. But deep down, something about the intensity of it all made me uneasy. Then came our first date. I thought meeting in person might help settle the strange feeling I couldn't shake. We agreed on a small cafe near my apartment, somewhere safe, public. When I saw him walk in, I almost forgot my concerns. He looked even better than his pictures, his charm radiating with every word. For a while, the conversation flowed easily, and I started to think I just overreacted. But then he started mentioning things I hadn't told him. You must miss your college town, he said casually, stirring his coffee. I froze. I hadn't mentioned where I went to school. My heart skipped a beat when he followed it up by ordering my favorite coffee without asking. How did you know that? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. He laughed. You probably told me while we were texting. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But the way he looked at me in that moment, like he was savoring a private joke I wasn't in on, made my stomach churn. The unease grew worse after our date. A few days later, flowers arrived at my office. No note, just a bouquet of roses in a crystal vase. I hadn't told him where I worked. I called him immediately, trying to keep my voice steady. Did you send me flowers? He chuckled, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I just wanted to surprise you. You deserve to feel special. His words were sweet, but my instincts were screaming. How did he know where I worked? I didn't have an answer. That's when I decided to block him. I cut him off on Badoo, on my phone, on social media. It wasn't easy. Part of me felt guilty. What if I was overreacting? But that guilt turned to dread when the strange things started happening. I'd come home late one night to find a car idling across the street from my apartment. Its headlights flickered off the moment I stepped onto the curb. I hurried inside, locking the door behind me, but the hairs on the back of my neck wouldn't settle. Then there were the anonymous accounts. My Instagram posts started getting likes from profiles with no photos, no followers, ghost accounts. One night, as I was scrolling through Netflix, I thought I heard footsteps outside my apartment door. They were slow, deliberate. My heart raced as I tiptoed to the peephole, but when I looked, no one was there. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The breaking point came a week later. It was past midnight when my buzzer went off. The sound jolted me awake, and at first I thought it was a mistake. But then I heard his voice. Rachel, it's Daniel. Please let me in. We need to talk. His voice was low and strained, like he was barely holding it together. I froze, my mind racing. I didn't move a muscle, didn't even breathe. But then the buzzer rang again, and again. Rachel, he growled. I know you're in there. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I dialed the police with shaking hands. When they finally arrived, he was gone. But what they found chilled me to the bone. Scratches on my door. A note slipped underneath. "You can block me, but you can't escape me." I couldn't go back to my apartment after that. I stayed with a friend, convinced I'd finally shaken him. But even there, I wasn't safe. One night, as I walked to my car after work, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. I turned and there he was. His face was pale, his eyes wide and frantic. "I just want to talk," he pleaded, his voice cracking. I screamed, drawing the attention of people nearby. That was enough to scare him off, but my terror didn't end there. The police caught him days later, and what they found in his apartment made me sick. Photos of me, dozens of them. Some I'd posted online, but others were taken without my knowledge. Me walking to work, grabbing coffee, sitting by my window. He'd stolen little things too. Napkins from the cafe, even a scarf I thought I'd misplaced. And the diary, pages and pages obsessively detailing his plans to get closer to me. The most horrifying part? He'd been watching me long before we matched on Badoo. The profile wasn't a coincidence. It was a trap. I've since deleted every dating app, moved to a new place, and locked down my social media.